Hi guys, welcome back to TOEFL with Juva. In this lesson, I show you how to write an essay for an agree-disagree question in TOEFL independent writing. And I give you tips to help you increase your score. Let's get started. First, let's look at a specific TOEFL independent writing question. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Children today do not help others as much as children did in the past. Use specific reasons and examples to support your answer. This is an agree-disagree question. That's a question that gives you a statement and you have to decide whether you have the same opinion or not. Remember, the TOEFL examiner wants to see how well you support an opinion. There is no right or wrong answer. That means you need to choose whether you agree or disagree. I have seen many examples of high school students today helping others, so I agree with the statement. However, I decided that to make a stronger essay, I would focus on one example. I thought if I wrote about too many things, the ideas might get mixed up. Here's the start of my sample response. Some people claim that young people today are not as helpful towards others as those in the past. I start with an introduction that paraphrases the sentence in the prompt. I changed children to young people, and I changed help to are helpful. Since I don't agree, I use some people claim. That shows the examiner right away that I do not think of myself as one of the people who makes the claim. However, I make sure that my stance is clear in the following sentence. I strongly disagree with this view for two reasons related to social media that I will examine in this essay. You can see that I strongly or very much disagree with the view. I use a template to write my responses because they give me a great structure for the essay. Templates include a lot of good vocabulary words too. If you need templates for TOEFL writing, click on the link in the description. You can get templates for all the TOEFL writing tasks, TOEFL integrated writing and independent writing there, and plenty of examples to really boost your score. However, you will notice I changed the template a little bit in this response. That's just fine. You can use your own words. Here I changed totally disagree to strongly disagree. I also gave more information about the reasons I said they're related to social media. Now it's time for the first body paragraph. Here's the first sentence. First, the prevalence of social media has greatly raised children's awareness about social issues. I use first because it's an easy way to show that I'm starting to give reasons. My reason is that children now have awareness or more information about social issues. I actually had a different sentence here when I started to write the essay. I went back and proofread and realized that the original sentence didn't discuss what I ended up talking about in the paragraph. I changed it after the passage was done. It's really important to proofread, so you make sure the topic sentences introduce the paragraph well. My next sentence is a comment about the situation now. Now it is common for kids, especially those in middle or high school, to browse online and become interested in pressing social issues. I use now because I have also mentioned kids in the past, so I want the reader to know which kids I'm talking about. That's the general statement. Now I want to give a more specific example, and I will use an awesome sentence you can find in the template. This is best demonstrated by my personal experience. That sentence is great because it uses long words and shows that the next example is your own story. I often ride the bus, so I look at my smartphone during that time when I'm idle. This starts the story. I thought it might not sound really positive to say, I sit around looking at social media. So I explained a time that I use it, which is not, for example, the time that I should be doing homework. I also changed this sentence when I proofread the passage too. I had written have nothing else to do, but I realized that idle is a precise word that is more unusual and could really show off my vocabulary. Here's the rest of the story. Last winter, I read that a homeless center in my city did not have enough supplies for the huge number of people who went there for shelter. I've explained what I saw on the social media. That article prompted me to donate my used clothes to them. Now I've explained what I did because of what I saw. My example shows how social media made me aware of a social issue and inspired me to help. I didn't want to write, I did this, then I did this, then I did this. Notice that I changed the subject to that article and used prompted me for a change in sentence structure. That example is good enough. If I write a lot more, I might run out of time. In addition, I might get off the topic of how social media makes kids more helpful. It's really easy to start writing about things which are not part of the original question. Now I need a concluding sentence for the paragraph. Here it is. I was amazed because I had not even heard about the shelter before I saw the article. So social media introduced a problem in which I could be part of the solution. I summarized the main point I wanted to make in my example. That's the first part of the sentence. I hadn't heard about the shelter. But I didn't stop there. A good concluding sentence reminds your reader of the main point of the paragraph. Mine is a paraphrase of the idea of raising awareness in the topic sentence. Social media introduced a problem in which I could be part of the solution. Time for the second paragraph. I start by indenting, so it is clear that the new section is beginning. Moreover, social media is an easy way to generate more participation. Moreover is another awesome linking word. It shows I'm about to add more information on the same subject. In this case, it shows that I'm still talking about ways that social media is related to modern kids helping others. Now I will talk about generating participation or asking other people to help too. The next sentence sets the situation. Children in the past could only talk to each other or write letters. I include this to remind the reader that I'm still comparing kids in the past to kids in the present. I want to stress that social media is what has caused the change. By contrast, social media allows youth to reach millions of like-minded individuals around the world. By contrast, starts the next sentence. It's used to show that the following idea is very different. In this case, the number of people reached in the past was small, but now you can reach millions. After stating that general case, I will give an example. Using the same example of the homeless shelter, I wanted to do more than just donate my own clothes. I said, using the same example of the homeless shelter to remind the reader of the example I will talk about. I want them to know I'm continuing the story rather than starting a new one. Here's what happened. I contacted my friends who liked the idea and searched their closets for unworn items. This shows that I was able to spread my idea. But I also paraphrased clothes into unworn items. We jokingly called it the Cleaning Closets for Charity project. I added one more sentence. It's short, but I hope it's memorable and explains what happens well. Notice I use charity to paraphrase help. Now check out the next sentence. However, it was more than a joke. The last time I checked, over 100 people in our extended network had provided articles of clothing for those in need. I am really pleased with this sentence. It uses, however, to show that there is a contrast with the previous idea of a joke. That word stresses that the results were serious. It shows that motivating over 100 people was a good accomplishment. Then I use a colon, which demonstrates to the TOEFL examiner that I can use a complex sentence structure. Then I paraphrase a lot of the ideas while saying the project was really successful. I used extended network in place of social media. I used articles of clothing for clothes. I replaced homeless with those in need. Now it's time for the concluding sentence in the paragraph. Social media allowed us to spread the word about the problem in a way that children in the past could not do. In this sentence, allowed us links back to the example I just gave. However, the main purpose of this sentence is to remind the reader of the main point of the paragraph. Last comes the conclusion. Again, I made sure this was a separate paragraph. I use in conclusion to show that this is the end. In conclusion, social media allows children today to be more helpful than children in the past were. I usually start by paraphrasing the original statement, but this time I disagreed. Therefore, I paraphrased my version of what the original sentence should be. This is the one I would agree with. Here's my final sentence. I feel this way because kids are exposed to more social issues and because they have a chance to share news and encourage friends to help. I gave my reasons for why I hold my opinion about the original claim. I summarized the main points of the two body paragraphs. Usually, I'm relieved to be done now, but I always take time to proofread and see if there are words that I can change to show off my vocabulary better. Proofreading really is a good way to ensure you get the best possible TOEFL writing score. That's it. That's the steps I took to complete a TOEFL writing task. It includes many ways to improve your score.